We exist in a world today where everything can be faked or fixed.
I think people don't know what body positivity is.
Tonight, we look at the ups and downs of weight loss from prescription drugs like Ozempic.
But I guess Ozempic can cause bone density loss.
Okay, girl, I need to talk to you about something that has been living rent-free in my head for weeks. All these women who looked us straight in the eyes and said, love yourself, your body is beautiful, curves are everything. And they meant it. Or it really felt like they did, and we believed them. We bought their shapewear and streamed their songs and felt a little less alone because of them. And then 2026 happened.
It's Lizzo, the CEO of Yitty.
One by one, they all started looking different. Not just a little different, dramatically, startlingly different. And the thing that gets me isn't even the weight loss itself. People change, health is personal, I get all of that. What gets me is the gap. The gap between what was being sold to us and what was privately happening. The gap between every body is a summer body and the secret appointments. The gap between the anthem and the reality. And the craziest part? These women didn't just casually mention body positivity. They built entire careers on it. Clothing lines, chart-topping songs, book deals, all anchored in love yourself exactly as you are. So today we are going through all 12 of them. Some of these are going to make your jaw drop. If you're already feeling this, go ahead and hit subscribe. I do this every single week, and girl, there is so much more where this came from. Lizzo. Okay, so I have to start with her because no one represents this gap more vividly. And I say that with genuine warmth. Because girl, she didn't just promote body positivity, she was the movement for a solid 5-year stretch.
Now that body positivity has been co-opted by all bodies,
she launched an entire shapewear brand to make plus-size women feel, in her words, unapologetically good about themselves. She wore stunning outfits on stage and owned every inch of it. Millions of women felt genuinely seen because of her. That was real.
When I was bigger, I felt skinny. I felt skinnier than I do now.
So when her body started looking noticeably different and people had feelings about it, Lizzo actually did open up.
It's just the science for me, calories in versus calories out. Ozempic works because you eat less food.
She wrote a vulnerable piece about going through a dark personal period after a painful situation with some former dancers, saying that difficulty shifted a lot of things for her.
You know that part of sadness where you feel like a burden on everyone and annoying?
She also mentioned reportedly trying a weight loss medication briefly before focusing on other methods. And I hear all of that. But at the exact same time, she was publicly saying these medications were erasing plus-size women from culture, and that's what fans couldn't sit with. The woman who built her brand on celebrating that body type was warning about its disappearance from inside a noticeably smaller frame. The people who loved her most felt that contradiction the deepest. That gap is what stayed with me. Meghan Trainor. No, but seriously, this is the one I keep coming back to because the irony is just so undeniable. You cannot write this. Meghan Trainor wrote a song, Diamond Certified, played at every school dance, heard it in every supermarket, that literally told girls their bodies were perfect.
I'm all about that bass.
Not metaphorically. The lyrics said, every inch of you is perfect. She sang it to millions of women who needed exactly that. She also co-founded a body confidence organization for kids. Her whole early career was one long, warm hug to anyone who had ever felt bad about their size. And then, and she was actually refreshingly honest, I will give her credit, she opened up on her podcast about reportedly starting a weight loss medication alongside her husband, losing around 60 pounds after a health concern.
Just posting who I am, everyone's just being like, why are you thin now? Like, you were all about that base girl. I was like...
She said she had never felt better. She pushed back on critics with a lot of energy, which, fair enough, she has every right to make health choices. But can you imagine being a teenager who grew up with that song as your actual anthem? That song specifically told you that you were perfect as you were, and now the woman who sang it has significantly changed her own body with medical help. I'm not saying she did anything wrong. I'm saying the contrast is real, and the women who grew up with that song are adults now, and they noticed. The song is still playing everywhere, and that just sits in the air in this strange, heavy way. Ashley Graham. Wait till you hear the smoothie part, because I'm not even kidding. The smoothie part sent me. Ashley Graham, first plus-size Sports Illustrated cover model, wrote books about loving her cellulite, built a whole career saying every body deserves to be celebrated, showed up to walk the Victoria's Secret runway in late 2025, looking like she had dropped around 6 dress sizes. 6. And her face showed significant changes too. When people started asking, Ashley's explanation was essentially new routine, healthy habits, and weight loss smoothies. Girl, smoothies for 6 dress sizes. I am not saying anything negative about her choices. What I am saying is that the explanation landed awkwardly, especially because people also surfaced old clips of her on America's Next Top Model, where she had reportedly been critical of a contestant for not being plus-size enough. So you have the person who built her brand on plus-size representation, walking the most exclusionary runway in fashion, in a dramatically smaller frame, and the answer is smoothies. The smoothies part just keeps getting me. That ANTM clip, the runway, the smoothies, laid side by side, the disconnect between the brand and the reality is what people simply could not move past. Remi Bader. Okay, stay with me on this one because it hit differently than the others. Remi Bader built her whole platform on being real.
This is extremely rude. An XL? I was so excited to wear emerald green.
She would try on clothes and show exactly how they fit on her actual body. Not a sample-size body, her body.
Imagine actually like looking at your child and being like, I'm going to work like this. I can't believe.
People loved her for it because it felt honest in a space that almost never is. She became an ambassador for a major brand and openly talked about her complicated personal journey with food. Her message was clear: I'm going to show you the truth. So when her body started changing dramatically through 2025 and people started asking, she kept saying it was lifestyle, working out, yoga, and her followers, a lot of whom were in vulnerable places with their own body image, tried to follow along. They didn't see the same results, and some later spoke about how much that impacted them emotionally, chasing results they couldn't understand. Because eventually, Remi admitted she had actually had a significant surgical procedure.
What he told me is that there was a newer surgery, which is what I did.
Her defense was that she never technically said it was just medication. Okay, technically true, but the spirit of honesty her entire brand was built on, the reason those women trusted her in the first place, that felt like it had quietly disappeared. And for the women who trusted her most, that one landed the hardest.
I tried Ozempic almost 3 years ago.
Amy Schumer. Here is your pattern interrupt because Amy Schumer's story goes somewhere I did not expect, and it might actually be the most honest thing on this list, even if it doesn't look that way at first. Amy built her career on being the un-Hollywood woman. She made I Feel Pretty, literally a film about self-acceptance and rejecting beauty standards. She refused magazine retouching so other women would feel normal. She was loud and funny and refused to pretend. And then she reportedly tried a weight loss medication, posted about it, and then deleted it. What she said in that window of honesty was that it made her seriously unwell, so much so that she felt unable to keep up with daily life, including being present for her son, and she stopped. But there is another layer. She had reportedly also had a cosmetic procedure a couple of years earlier, quietly. So the full picture is this woman who built a career on I am not doing what Hollywood demands had quietly been doing some of what Hollywood demands, and the only reason we know is because she told us briefly before deleting it. That small window of honesty, and then the deletion, says more about the pressure these women are under than almost anything else on this list. I genuinely felt for her when I put the full picture together. Barbie Ferreira. This one I find genuinely fascinating because she never said a single word, and somehow that silence was louder than every explanation everyone else gave combined. Barbie Ferreira played a character on Euphoria, whose entire arc was about a plus-size woman reclaiming her own beauty and desire on her own terms. And for an entire generation of women, that character was everything. Off-screen, she was just as vocal. She demanded that fashion make room for her. She refused to be invisible. She was openly and proudly herself in an industry that tried constantly to look through her. And then she walked the Victoria's Secret runway, and the fashion world genuinely gasped because she looked dramatically, unmistakably different. Her whole silhouette had changed, and when the conversation exploded online, her response to the most talked about thing happening in her world at that moment,
I have entered a different dimension, and then I will kind of go back to the regular dimension after the show,
was to casually call it a side quest girl. No explanation, no acknowledgement, just silence and a casual wave off. And here's what I keep thinking about. Victoria's Secret has historically only dressed one specific type of body. To access that runway, she had to leave behind the exact body that made her famous. She had to physically become the thing her whole career was built on challenging. And she said nothing about that at all. Her silence is its own complete story. What do you do with that? Mindy Kaling. This one hit me differently because Mindy wasn't just someone who occasionally talked about body positivity. She made the relatable, non-Hollywood body her whole personality in the most charming, funny way. She wrote memoirs about loving food. She created a show where she was the romantic lead at a size Hollywood never casts in that role. She had a quote that went genuinely viral about fluctuating between chubby and curvy, and women loved it because it was warm and made them feel seen in this specific way. And then somewhere between 2024 and 2026, she arrived at events looking so dramatically different that a researcher at Rutgers University specifically cited her transformation as one of the moments that visibly shifted the body image conversation, like academics were writing about it. That is how significant the change appeared. And when people asked, she said she simply had a sensible approach and no crash diets, which that is her right, completely. But I mean, when the shift is significant enough that universities are putting it in their research, and the explanation is essentially just good habits, the gap between what people were seeing with their own eyes and what they were being told just hung there uncomfortably. The women who had felt like Mindy was the one famous person who genuinely looked like them. They felt that gap, quietly, personally, and deeply. Christina Aguilera. I'm not even kidding when I say this one made me genuinely stop and just sit with it, because Christina Aguilera's song Beautiful, the one that won the Grammy, the one that told every insecure and non-conforming girl that words cannot bring you down. That song is foundational. That is not an exaggeration at all. That song was a genuine lifeline for a lot of people.
It's so hard to breathe.
And for the 2 decades after it, Christina herself embodied a fuller, more powerful aesthetic. She matched her own message. She was curvy and glamorous and unapologetically present. And then she reappeared in late 2025 into 2026, looking so sharp, so strikingly similar to her very early career look. We're talking her barely 20 self, that people online weren't just surprised, they were genuinely worried. The comments weren't about weight loss, they were about concern. Her face looked dramatically different in a way that alarmed a lot of fans who care about her. And she has said nothing, not a word, just a general wellness rebrand and complete silence on everything everyone was asking. And the cruelest irony of it all, the singer of Beautiful appearing to retreat to the extreme standard that song was written to push back against. That is the kind of thing that settles into you. That one broke my heart a little, if I'm being honest with you. Chrissy Metz. Okay, this is the one that genuinely made me pause for a second, because Chrissy Metz wasn't just adjacent to body positivity, she lived it on screen every single week for years. She played Kate on This Is Us, a character whose entire emotional arc was about a plus-size woman navigating love, family, and self-worth. And that role meant everything to so many women who finally saw themselves reflected in a primetime network drama. She also wrote a memoir about embracing her own journey.
I'm living the lessons of my book and being able to share it with people.
She was, for a big part of America, the face of what it looks like to be plus size and fully human and worthy of a beautiful story. So when she showed up in 2025 looking dramatically, significantly smaller, we're talking nearly 100 pounds, fans genuinely did not know what to do with it at first. And here's the thing that set Chrissy apart from almost everyone else on this list. She was honest. She said clearly that she supported whatever helps people feel well and that she was on her own health journey.
I've got to get a handle on myself, on the weight, and on all of it.
She even said she's still a big cheerleader for body positivity, even as her own body changes. And most fans actually responded with warmth and support, very little backlash, which is interesting in itself because the honesty made the difference. The conversation around her was so much softer than almost anyone else here. And maybe that tells us something. When the transparency is there, people can hold both things at once, celebrating the person and still sitting with the complexity of what it all means. Kelly Clarkson. No, but seriously, Kelly Clarkson is someone I think most people just genuinely love and want well for. She won American Idol.
The winner of American Idol 2002 is Kelly Clarkson.
She had hit after hit for 2 decades. And then she became this daytime host who felt like the realest person on television. Funny, warm, completely unfiltered. She brushed off every single comment about her weight with this easy, unbothered grace that made fans adore her. And she had partnered with Weight Watchers at one point, which, interesting in hindsight, framed her as someone openly navigating her weight in public alongside her audience. And then across 2 full seasons of her talk show, on camera, episode by episode, she visibly and significantly changed. It was gradual and then obvious. The wardrobe shifted, the silhouette shifted. When the speculation got loud enough, she said she was taking a prescription medication. Something about breaking down sugar was how she described it.
Everybody thinks it's Ozempic. It's not. It's something else. But it's something that aids in helping break down the sugar. Obviously, my body doesn't do it.
But deliberately avoided naming any specific medication. And what got people wasn't the transformation itself. It was that it all happened right there in front of everyone, on a live show, with no conversation while it was happening. The women who felt like Kelly was the one person on TV who looked like them and didn't apologize for it. Those women felt the absence of transparency, mostly not angry, just quietly left behind. Rebel Wilson. The detail in Rebel Wilson's story I genuinely cannot stop thinking about, straight from her own memoir, is that Hollywood allegedly told her she was not meant to change her body. Her value, her roles, her contracts were specifically tied to staying the size she was. She was, in the most literal sense, paid to remain in a specific body. She was Fat Amy for years, on purpose, as a financial arrangement, and then she went through what she called her year of health, lost a significant amount of weight.
So is that what a woman has to do in the world, is lose weight to like get attention?
Initially talked about it in terms of wellness and lifestyle, and everyone celebrated her. The whole world applauded. And then in her memoir, she was honest. She mentioned using a weight loss medication as part of her journey, saying these tools could genuinely help people with certain tendencies around food. But when you hold all of it together, the industry that contracted her to stay in a certain body, the years of making her size the punchline while she smiled through it, and then the moment she changed that body, everyone applauded louder than ever, that says something uncomfortable about how this works. She didn't just make a health change, she stopped being what they paid her to be, and they loved her more for it. Can you imagine what that actually feels like? Oprah Winfrey, and here we are at number 1, because nobody, and I mean nobody, has profited from the public conversation around weight and self-acceptance at this scale for this long. It is Oprah, and it is not even close. Her weight has been public since 1988, the year she wheeled a wagon of 67 pounds of fat onto her talk show stage to represent her own loss.
So how'd you gain the weight?
I ate a lot.
That image went around the world, and then she joined the Weight Watchers board. She bought a 10% stake reportedly worth over $40 million at its peak. She did the commercials. She was the living embodiment of the message. The right program, the right mindset, and you can do this. And then she reappeared looking remarkably different, reportedly around 155 pounds, matching her weight from a marathon she ran back in 1994. She confirmed she had been using a weight loss medication.
Even when I first started hearing about the weight loss drugs, at the same time I was going through knee surgery.
And co-wrote a book called Enough with a Yale obesity specialist, reframing obesity as a neurological condition, not a willpower failure. And that science is genuinely real and matters. But girl, she sat on the board of a company built entirely on the willpower and discipline model, while privately using medication. When pharmaceutical help became available to someone with her resources, she chose it, and then stepped down from the Weight Watchers board. The phrase circulating everywhere was champagne activism. And I keep thinking about the women who followed her for 30 years, who could never afford what she had access to, watching from the outside. That is the part I cannot stop sitting with. I want to be honest with you here for a second, because this deserves more than just receipts. The women who followed these body positivity messages were real women with real feelings, genuinely trying to make peace with themselves in a world that constantly tells them they're not enough. And for a while, these voices gave them something to hold on to. You are enough. Your body is worthy. Love yourself as you are, and that genuinely carried people through hard days. So when those same voices quietly shifted, when explanations were thin or missing entirely, or the transformation was happening on camera with no acknowledgement, the women who trusted those voices felt something real. Body image specialists have spoken about the specific hurt that comes from this, and when someone's followers tried to replicate results that turned out to be impossible because the actual change was surgical, that is real harm to real people. We saw that with Remi Bader's audience specifically. And to be fair, several of these women had genuine medical reasons. The science behind some of these medications is real and life-changing for a lot of people. Health is personal and complicated, but there is a meaningful difference between a private person making a health choice and a public figure who built a career on a specific message about bodies. When the message and the reality quietly stop matching, and the women who trusted that message are left alone trying to understand why they still cannot feel okay, that deserves honesty. So here's where I keep landing. Lizzo writing publicly about the erasure of plus-size women while her own transformation was already underway. Oprah selling the mindset plan from a board seat while privately using medication. Meghan Trainor, whose song told a whole generation they were perfect, showing up dramatically changed and saying she's simply taking care of herself. I do not hate any of them. The pressure they live under is wild and relentless, but the women who built their sense of worth on these messages, who bought the shapewear, streamed the songs, quietly thought maybe I really am enough. Those women deserved honesty, not perfection, not staying the same forever, just honesty. That is all any of us ever really wanted from them. If this made you see these stories a little differently, hit subscribe. I have more coming every single week, and you truly will not want to miss them.